Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Story number 1. Yes, the floor is a weapon. Written by Thunder Summon. Humans were only recently starting to take their first steps into the cosmos and were still not interesting enough to draw the attention of the more powerful races. Sure, their technology was expanding greatly with each new race they encountered, but a full grasp of the more advanced races' tech was decades, or maybe even centuries, off. To this end, the humans still had bulky and massive gravity systems attached to their ships. These systems, though usually more massive than the ships they were installed on, helped generate artificial gravity and dampened the effects of inertia during maneuvering and acceleration or deacceleration. Their ships looked awkward, like a series of metal rods all fused together along the central axis, and the gravity system hung on the top, or front if your orientation prefers, like a giant oversized donut. The humans maintained the same basic design of their ships even after acquiring a newer technology because, as they put it, why fix what isn't broken? The original design of the human ships was necessary to generate artificial gravity through centrifugal force. Though they no longer spun their ships, humanity liked their unique ships as a hallmark of human design. In the parts of space that humans are currently exploring, there is another race of beings, the Quilly. They are usually avoided by other races because of their aggressiveness and often parasitic nature. This race was described by humans as pirate octo-jellyfish, for their similarity to several aquatic species found on Earth as well as their tactics. The Quilly descended from an aquatic species and thrived in low or zero gravity environments. This meant that their ships required small gravity systems and could focus more energy towards speed and movement. During one encounter, the humans, in their awkward tube ships, are trying their hardest to blast across the galaxy to the nearest star system when they are preyed upon by the Quilly. The Quilly ship opted for the tried and true tactic of disabling the oversized gravity system with a few expertly placed laser pulses, before latching their ship directly onto the hull of their prey. The Quilly know that this tactic works most often because most space-faring species rely heavily on gravity and quickly become disoriented in microgravity. Their aquatic and zero-gravity nature have given them a great advantages in boarding attacks. This time was different. As soon as the Quilly disabled the gravity system, the humans went quiet. No more shots were fired, no more evasive maneuvers were taken, no broadcasts for mercy or for help were sent out. It was as if the humans gave up as soon as the gravity left. This was unusual because humans had already shown a strong affinity for fighting back, and with bodies trained for such high gravity, they were quite a dangerous prey. Perhaps a key life support system was tied to the gravity system, and they had all been accidentally killed. Scans still showed life signs aboard the craft. No one was moving much, so perhaps they had decided to surrender, but had not broadcast this intent. No matter. The boarding procedure was about to begin. The Quilly ship pulled alongside the human ship behind the massive disabled gravity drive and sent down their long prehensile docking arms to pull the two ships together. The Quilly, all wearing specialized gear to help them survive the human atmosphere, waited until the breech tubes opened before pouring into the human ship in an overwhelming crowd of tendrils, tentacles, and tube-like arms. As soon as the whole boarding party was aboard the human ship, disaster struck. The huge groan and screech of metal, the human ship had fired all of its lateral vectoring thrusters at the same direction. The roar was deafening across both atmospheres of the latched ships, with all of the thrusters firing in a single direction. The human ship began to spin around its own central axis. The Quilly were thrown across each room they currently occupied and made a loud, wet smacking sound as each of them were dropped unceremoniously to the floors of the human ship. The docking arms of the Quilly ship used barbs to remain secure and could not be disengaged under such a strong gravitational force. The Quilly ship was now stuck to the human ship until the humans decided that it was ready to let them go. The humans kept the thrusters firing and dove the spin faster and faster until two fuel human gravities was achieved. The human ships found this uncomfortable, of course, but the Aquili were now completely helpless and unable to activate or even aim their weapons. The human crew took this opportunity to sweep both ships and collect the entire Aquili crew as prisoners. The humans found it quite humorous that a load of old buckets kept in the cargo bay served as an adequate prisoner transport cells as the sweep of the ships was done. "Just pick them up, remove the blaster ring and put them in a bucket. Put a lid on the bucket." No species in the recorded history of Aquili attacks had ever defeated and imprisoned an entire Aquili crew using gravity as their only weapon before. Perhaps humans won't need to advance their technology to elicit the interest of the greater galactic races, after all. End of story. Story number 2. Who are the humans sending? Written by Random 3X. Heli looked over his datapad. His agents had infiltrated the human databases and obtained intelligence on the military officer the humans had sent to act as a diplomat. The human was named Adrian Gislan, the lieutenant general within the human military, a reasonably high rank. This was good. It meant that the humans weren't snubbing them, at least. Opening the file, they were surprised that it seemed rather large compared to the usual soldier files. "It seems this human Adrian joined at a considerable youth. I was under the impression that humans place minimum age restrictions on military admission," Healy said, looking at his brother Vesa. "That is the case, brother. It seems the human Adrian was eager to join the military, so he falsified his age," Vesa explained. "And the humans allowed this?" Healy asked, somewhat surprised. "It seems at the time the humans were in a conflict with another system, so they chose to actively ignore the easily identifiable falsehood to gain another soldier," Vesa explained. "Ah, that makes sense," Healy nodded as he thumbed further into the document. It seems that he was injured during his first deployment. A serious stomach wound that left him bedridden," Vesa said, looking up at Healy. "Indeed, so it seems that we are welcoming a wounded veteran," Healy chuckled at the luck of not serving in further battles due to a minor injury. "This is surprising. It seems he continued to serve in combat role after his injury was treated," Healy exclaimed in surprise. Reading further, they could see he quickly volunteered to go to the front lines again and was deployed to a newly started conflict between multiple planetary systems. Healy could feel his antennae begin to flatten in shock as he read further. 7, he shouted in shock, reading the number of injuries the man had sustained in his conflict. "It seems there is an addendum attached to his loss of limbs, sir," Vesa pointed out. Opening the attachment, they were shocked by what they read. He bit them off," Vesa squealed in fear. The man had been injured and demanded his damaged appendages be amputated. The medical staff refused, so he bit through the remaining flesh and removed the injured fingers themselves. Reading further, Vesa, it seems that he had to do a further amputation, Eddie read aloud. "Sir, there are records of further military engagements after this." Vesa pointed at his own datapad with a shaking hand. "It seems that he was present at the Battle of Soma System," Pelly read. Even their race knew of this terrible engagement that had cost countless lives. "It says here that he got shot through the head." Henny and Vesa were nearing the end of the sanity now. This had to be a fake document. No human could survive with all these injuries and keep fighting. Maybe it was as they had surmised earlier, and they were going to meet a wounded but highly decorated war veteran. "I hope that he has his wits about him," Vesa muttered. Thankfully, it seems that he was retired to a more advisory role following the resolution of the conflict," Henny said with a visible relief. "Aid to various planetary governors and advisors, fought off a... He fought off a pirate attack on his transport with nothing but a sidearm." Henny had quickly lost his composure and had managed to regain. "Sir, there is another attachment," Vesa pointed out, his voice cracking. They read the attachment, which was a note of personally written by the human in question, roughly translated. It said that he rarely carried a sidearm, as he knew that he'd use it on his own men if they annoyed him enough. "Brother, the humans must be threatening us with this diplomat," Besser insisted.
"Calm yourself, brother. And the humans would not do such a thing. Regardless, we only are aware of these details due to obtaining this information through outside sources,"
Heli replied, though he was reluctant to admit he held a similar suspicion to his brother. "Look, brother, the documents become sensible again. Standard stuff for a decorated veteran, led a resistance group and aided civilians. Commendable, no?" Besser seemed almost desperate now.
"It seems that he was sent back to act as an intermediary between his home system and another. Look, oh boy, the great suns, no! He was shot down!"
Heli cried in anguish. "Please tell me he did not single-handedly lay waste to the enemy, brother," Besser begged.
"No, brother. It says here that he was taken prisoner,"
Heli replied with a sigh of relief. "It seems he, along with a few other captives, made numerous escape attempts," Besser read.
"May common rule amongst human officers to try and cause trouble for the captors,"
Heli nodded. "But, brother, there is another attachment," Besser pointed with a trembling finger.
"Worry not. It seems that it's just notes of his captors. It seems they found him quite amusing and admired his ability to insult them,"
Heli mused aloud. Reading further, they were pleased to see the absurdity began to subside. Less war maniac and more gentleman officer, postings in many systems as a representative of his home system. But there was a note that caught their attention.
"Brother, please tell me I'm misreading this,"
Heli now begged. "Sadly, he did insult the dread Lord Backstrada. This may have been before he rose to power, but to say that he was doing little and was just a fanatic must have taken some bravery," Besser said, seemingly deflating.
"Upside, brother, it seems dread Lord Backstrada found it amusing and even laughed,"
Heli replied. The pair began to worry how well they would hold their own against such an insane human. As if waiting for this very moment of contemplation, they heard a knock at the door with a voice announcing that he had arrived. End of story. The algorithm reckons you should be watching this video next, and I recommend that you should be always watching my videos. So, click with energy! And yes, clicking that does help the channel. Thank you very much. I just quickly want to thank the Tier 5 patrons and channel members: Alithia Barkey, Cam Maxwell, Casper Arnholtz, Albarden Guster, Arcadian, Lord Azrakal, and Joachim Backer.